This is Nightline, and I'm Sabrina Zainal. News making the headlines. Malaysia calls for a U.S. re-evaluation in tackling humanitarian crisis in Gaza. And RON 95 petrol smuggling cases on the rise. Good morning. We begin with this story. Malaysia has called for the United States to continue re-evaluating its approach to tackling the humanitarian crisis in Gaza and to hasten an end to the ongoing violence and bloodshed in the conflict between Israel and Palestine. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said the current humanitarian crisis is a pressing issue that requires comprehensive measures and attention from major world powers. In his keynote address at the 37th Asia-Pacific Roundtable APR in Kuala Lumpur on Thursday, Anwar expressed Malaysia's appreciation for the early signs of change in the U.S.'s approach towards the Israeli occupation of Palestine.
President Joe Biden has recently expressed growing impatience with his Israeli counterpart. He has also begun to push for an acceptance of a proposal for a ceasefire in exchange for the release of hostages.
In addressing the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, Anwar stressed that it cannot be ignored or conveniently brushed aside, urging action to prevent further atrocities and displacement. The Prime Minister also noted that although Malaysia is not a major power, the nation will continue to use its sovereignty and freedom to support the Palestinians' fight for their rights. He also underscored the importance of maintaining balanced relationships with key partners while recognizing situations that demand unhesitating and unequivocal intervention. International media reported that U.S. President Joe Biden on May 31st presented a three-phase deal proposed by Israel to Hamas that he said would end hostilities in the besieged Gaza Strip and secure the release of hostages held in the coastal enclave. On June 2nd, it was reported that mediators Qatar and Egypt, along with the U.S., also called on both Hamas and Israel to finalize the agreement, which offers a roadmap for a permanent ceasefire and ending the crisis in Gaza. Meanwhile, Anwar said that Malaysia will maintain its neutral stance and not choose sides between the major powers of China and the U.S. The Prime Minister stated that constant discussion and speculation on choosing sides is counterproductive and will also contribute to a brewing cauldron of mistrust and suspicion.
We are fiercely independent. That is to say, we refuse to be defined by how major powers see the world, and Malaysia will continue to strive for our national and strategic interests on our own terms. Malaysia stands for peace and progress, fellow feeling, and above all, abiding adherence to international law and cooperation.
He added that Malaysia will also maintain strong and fruitful relationships with both China and the U.S. and will continue to pursue productive and meaningful relations with other partners, whether long-standing strategic and comprehensive strategic partners or friends in the global south. Anwar also said as Malaysia prepares to assume the ASEAN chairmanship in 2025, the country will strive to lead with moral character as stressed upon in the principles of Malaysia Madani. In the meantime, at least 40 Palestinians were killed and more than 70 wounded on Thursday after Zionist forces bombed a United Nations-linked school in central Gaza. Officials from Gaza's government media office and the health ministry confirmed the death toll, which included 14 children and 9 women, following the pre-dawn strikes which hit Al-Sardi school and homes in Nuseirat camp. According to local media, thousands of displaced Palestinians were sheltering at Al-Sardi school, which is linked to the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA. The strike came as U.S., Qatari and Egyptian mediators resumed talks seeking a ceasefire and hostage release deal, but a statement shared Thursday morning by Hamas criticized what the group characterized as deferring explanations of the latest proposal by the U.S. and Israel. The statement said U.S. President Joe Biden had confused the situation and accused Israel of issuing subsequent contradictory statements regarding its backing of the deal. Now, cases of smuggling RON 95 petrol are now on the rise after the government announced the rationalization of diesel subsidies. Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Minister Dato' Armizan Muhammad Ali revealed that this new strategy by fuel smugglers was discovered by enforcement officers stationed at the main border entry points in Perlis, Perak, Kedah and Kelantan.
According to Armizan, his ministry detected the new tactic carried out by smugglers in 4 states since early this year. Based on the initial reports, it is believed that smugglers have switched from diesel to RON 95 and making multiple trips to petrol stations around the border states for subsidized fuel. Compared to before, when they used 4-wheel drive vehicles to smuggle petrol, the smugglers have now modified the fuel tanks of sedan cars to fill the excess petrol.
Wujud kecenderungan sekarang penyeludupan bahan api yang sebelum ini tertumpu kepada bahan api diesel, tetapi kini terdapat tren peningkatan penyeludupan, kes-kes penyeludupan bahan api RON 95 yang dijangkakan berlaku disebabkan penyeludup ataupun sindiket ini mengubah strategi apabila kerajaan telah mengumumkan bahawa penyasaran semula subsidi diesel akan dilaksanakan tahun ini.
Armizan said this at a press conference after patrolling the Malaysia-Thailand border at Sungai Gulok, Pengkalan Kubo in Kelantan on Thursday. Following the issues detected by the ministry, he said the government had issued an immediate directive to operators of petrol stations in the border states to monitor vehicles making repeat purchases and to submit full reports on their sales starting Friday. Additionally, his ministry will also strengthen cooperation with the Road Transport Department to conduct monitoring and inspections to detect modified vehicles. Meanwhile, Armizan said Optiris 3.0 will be continued until the end of the year. The operation, conducted from January 1st to May 31st, involved a total of 19,337 inspections carried out nationwide, resulting in 986 recorded cases of seizures amounting to 12.46 million ringgit during the period.
In other news, the Pulau Pinang State Education Department, JPN, has initiated engagement sessions with all stakeholders regarding objections to the dual language program, DLP, in several schools in the state. Education Minister Fadlina Sidek stated the move was part of the ministry's commitment to address the issues surrounding the DLP, ensuring the program is effectively implemented while adhering to the established guidelines and achieving its objectives.
In a statement on Thursday, Fadlina said the implementation of the DLP follows the guidelines outlined in the Education Ministry's Circular No. 5 of 2024, Guidelines for the Implementation of the Dual Language Program for 2024, dated March 19th. Schools implementing the DLP must ensure that opportunities are available for students who wish to study science and mathematics in either the national language or their mother tongue. She added that schools must also ensure that there is at least one class for each standard or form that conducts teaching and learning in the national language or mother tongue. This requirement starts with Standard 1 and Form 1 for the 2024-2025 school session. The DLP is an initiative under the Upholding the Malay Language and Strengthening the Command of English policy, allowing schools to teach science and mathematics in English. The program aims to enhance students' English proficiency by increasing exposure through the teaching of these subjects in English. On Wednesday, it was reported that the school boards and parent-teacher associations of 11 Chinese medium secondary schools in Pulau Pinang had urged the Education Ministry to honor parents' preferences and retain the original intent of the DLP for science and mathematics.
Now, the Election Commission, EC, has set polling day for the Sungai Bakap State seat by-election in Pulau Pinang on July 6th. Its Deputy Chairman, Azmi Sharom, said the nomination and early voting were set for June 22nd and July 2nd, respectively, with 14 days of campaigning.
Daftar pemilih pilihan raya, DPPR, yang akan digunakan untuk PRK Dewan Undangan N20 Sungai Bakap, Pulau Pinang adalah daftar pemilih terkini sehingga daftar pemilih tambahan bulan April 2024 yang dikemaskini sehingga 24 Mei 2024. DPPR bagi PRK Dewan Undangan N20 Sungai Bakap Pulau Pinang ini mengandungi seramai 39,279 orang pemilih.
Azmi announced this at a press conference after chairing a special meeting on the by-election at the EC headquarters in Putrajaya on Thursday. He also said that the by-election would cost 2.1 million ringgit, with 522 election workers to be appointed. The by-election was called following the death of its assemblyman, Nur Zamri Latif, from PAS on May 24th. In the 2023 state polls, Zamri won the Sungai Bakap state seat against PKR's Nur Hidayah Cik Rus with a 1,563 vote majority. Still to come, Hong Kong announces blanket ban on e-cigarettes. Don't go away.
Karnival Jom Heboh akan menggegarkan Bumi Melaka 28 hingga 30 Jun nanti. Peluang terbaik untuk kembangkan jenama, bisnes dan produk anda dengan pelbagai aktiviti menarik. Hubungi kami sekarang di maklumat tertera untuk menyertai. Jom, jom, jom!
Kejadian jenayah yang menggemparkan negara.
Payah tarik anak itu, tak apa. Patut bunyi roya-roya tu, buat ibu. Orang hari lah lagi, tengok anak kita letak dalam kereta.
Buka je nampak beg duit dengan cincin ada atas meja. Kita tak jatuh.
Saksikan 40 jenayah gempar dalam 999 sepanjang Mei dan Jun ini di TV3 dan stream sekarang melalui Tonton.
Makanlah apa anda nak makan. Yang penting makan sebelum lapar, berhenti sebelum kenyang. Sentiasa sulam dengan air kosong, banyakkan sayur serta serat dan kurangkan lemak dan juga gula. Senang je kan nak amalkan pemakanan sihat. Yang penting anda enjoy makanan anda. Saksikan Hello Doktor Ahad 5.30 petang di TV3.
Nombor 7, Jalan Tipa. Sumbang Jaya, Selangor. Selamat datang ke Jamuan Syam Suara.
On to the foreign front. The four-day European Parliament election kicked off on Thursday with the opening of polling stations in the Netherlands, the first of the European Union, EU's 27 member states to vote. A total of 720 members of the European Parliament, MEPs, will be elected, with 31 seats allocated to the Netherlands. Meanwhile, voting in Ireland and the Czech Republic will be held on Friday, Malta, Slovakia and Latvia on Saturday, and the rest of the 27 EU countries on Sunday. Opinion polls showed the Dutch Anti-Immigration Freedom Party, or PVV, of nationalist Geert Wilders was set to make gains, tying with the Labour and Green Left combination. Both were projected to win 8 seats in the European Parliament. First projections of results are expected after 11 p.m. local time on Sunday, following exit polls after 8 p.m. Hong Kong announced 10 new tobacco control policies on Thursday, such as introducing a new duty-paid labeling system, a ban on smoke and queue behavior in public, and prohibiting all flavored cigarettes and alternative products, including vapes and heated cigarettes. Now, other control measures include raising the maximum penalty for evading tobacco duty to a $250,000 fine and 7 years imprisonment, a ban on providing cigarettes to underage teens and children, and continuous reviews on the adjustment of tobacco duty. The government will also maximize the warning area of the cigarette packet to full coverage, as well as expand the non-smoking area and increase the fine for the breach. Secretary for Health, Lo Chung Mao, said the government strives to table the new policies to the Legislative Council before the end of this year and expects they will be passed within this legislative year. He added the new measures are part of the efforts for the government to achieve the goal of lowering the prevalence to 7.8% by 2025. Four people were killed and 26 were injured after a passenger train collided with a freight train in the Czech city of Pardubice on late Wednesday. According to officials, the accident had occurred shortly before 11 p.m. local time near the main train station in Pardubice, about 100 kilometers east of the capital, Prague. The express train carrying more than 300 passengers was reportedly heading to the western Ukrainian town of Chop, close to the border with Slovakia. During the incident, the locomotives of both trains collided head-on, causing one carriage of the passenger train to derail and suffer severe damage. Following this, 9 ambulance vans, 2 helicopters, and more than 60 firefighters, both professional and voluntary, had been deployed. Initial media reports suggested that the driver of the express train may have overlooked a stop signal or that a switch was set incorrectly. An investigation into the cause of the accident is now underway. At least one person was killed and more than 100 others were injured after 2 trams collided on a bridge in the Siberian city of Kemerovo early on Thursday. According to local media, at least 102 people were injured as a result of the crash, with the figure later confirmed by acting Kemerovo region governor Ilya Seredyuk. The runaway tram reportedly went out of control at 7:35 a.m. local time as it picked up speed and threw commuters out of its broken doors onto the busy Logovaya highway. 2 passengers were hurled out some 50 feet onto a busy road where alert drivers screeched to a halt in wet conditions. It was also reported that a 3rd passenger was thrown out of the moving tram after desperately holding on before being flung out. Russia's investigative committee has now opened a criminal case into safety violations following the crash, adding that 2 versions of what happened are currently being looked at of either human error or technical malfunction. Junhao Zijia storm into Indonesia Open last 8. Sports right after this breather.
Nak cari tempat untuk OOTD? Persembahan Cahaya Interaktif serius boleh buat gambar korang seleh habis. Raikan ulang tahun ke-40 TV3 dengan keajaiban pameran seni digital Immersio Inspirasi Generasi by TV3 dari 20 Mei hingga 9 Jun di Museum Telekom Kuala Lumpur. Jom ajak family, kawan dan partner sekali, okey? Selamat Hari TV3. #Inspirasi Generasi. Kami sentiasa bersamamu.
Pembunuhan yang paling kejam yang pernah berlaku di negara ini lah.
Dia diseksa. Itu yang saya tak boleh nak lupa.
Keadaan masa tu nampak kelang kabut sikit.
Memang sedih. Kes itu menggemparkan negara.
Ada sesuatu sedang berlaku di sana lah. Kita nak cari kebenaran.
Menyoroti kes-kes yang pernah menggemparkan dunia dan Malaysia, segalanya akan dirungkai dalam Fail Mahkamah setiap Rabu 9 malam. Terbaharu di TV3 dan stream sekarang ditonton.
It's not just about the entertainment factor. It's about challenging perceptions and inspiring positive change.
Stars are created not just to twinkle in the sky.
Just think of the line that he wrote for me to say that's iconic.
Yeah.
Orang putih ke, orang hitam ke, orang coklat ke, itu semua Malaysia kan?
I think I was 9 years old. I went for an audition, which my sister told my mom, like, I think we should send her to do something. She's like so loud.
Catch Women Talk this Saturday at 5 p.m. on TV3. Live stream on Tonton. Inspirasi Generasi bersamamu di TV3.
On to sports. Badminton, the 2024 Indonesia Open. National men's singles shuttler Leong Junhao continues his relentless march by taking down world number 11 Chiu Tian-chen of Taiwan in the second round. The world number 32 booked his spot in the quarterfinals after winning 21-18, 13-21, 21-17 in just 1 hour and 7 minutes. With his victory, the 24-year-old Junhao will take on China's world number 4 Li Shifeng in the last 8. In another match, world number 7 Li Zijia had a rough start after losing out the first set to China's Wang Hongyang. However, the former All-England champion bounced back to win the game 20-22, 21-9 and 21-16 in just 72 minutes. The 26-year-old will next face Thailand's Kunlavut Vittitsarn in the quarterfinals. Meanwhile, in the men's doubles, Go Jefei Nur Izzuddin made the valiant effort to come back and win against Indonesia's Leo Karnando and Daniel Martin. The world number 13 pair overcame their opponent 16-21, 21-16 and 21-12 in a match that lasted 59 minutes. Jefei Izzuddin will next face China's Liang Weikang Wang Chang. Men's doubles shuttlers Wei Chong T. Kai-won made it a double joy when they too reached the quarterfinals after defeating Rasmus Kjær Fredrik Søgaard of Denmark 21-18, 19-21, 21-12. The duo will now take on Taiwanese pair Lu Qingyao Yang Po-han for a place in the semifinals. In another match, world number 5 pair Aaron Chia So Woo-yik had an underwhelming performance when they crashed out in the last 16. The former world champions lost 21-16, 21-14 to Taiwan's Lu Qingyao Yang Po-han in just 37 minutes. In the women's doubles, Perlitan M. Tinaa showed nerves of steel to win the game against Apriyani Rahayu Siti Fadia Ramadanti 21-18, 21-19. The victory will set them up against China's Chen Qinchen Jia Yifan in the last 8. Earlier in the mixed doubles, Lai Pei-jing Tan Kian-meng overcame a first-set deficit to win the game 15-21, 23-21 and 21-14 against Denmark's Mathias Christensen, Alexandra Bohe. With this win, the pair will next face Korea's Kim Won-ho, Jong Na-eun in the quarterfinals. On to tennis now, the 2024 Roland Garros. Alexander Zverev reached the French Open semi-finals for the 4th consecutive year by seeing off the spirited challenge of Alex de Minaur. The 4th-seeded German kept his bid for an elusive first Grand Slam title alive after beating 11th seed de Minaur 6-4, 7-6 and 6-4. With this victory, Zverev now has another chance to reach the Roland Garros final after missing out on the spot for the last 3 years. He will next face the 7th-seed Norwegian Kasper Ruud in the semi-final. In the women's singles, Russia's Mira Andreeva claimed the biggest win of her career by defeating an ill-stricken Aryna Sabalenka 6-7, 6-4, 6-4. The 17-year-old is now the youngest player to reach a Grand Slam semi-final and will face 12th-seeded Italian Jasmine Paolini in the next round. Coming up, bid to smuggle beer worth over 1 million ringgit foiled. Don't go away.
Kekal cakna, kekal sihat. Hello Doktor merungkai pelbagai persoalan kesihatan anda.
Penyakit kronik, pemakanan, kesihatan mental, semuanya demi kesejahteraan anda.
Setiap minggu bersama tenaga pakar kesihatan terbaik Malaysia, segalanya terjawab dalam Hello Doktor setiap Ahad
5.30 petang di TV3
dan stream juga melalui Tonton.
Siapa peminat nombor 1 Aina Abdul, Dayang Nurbaizah, Naim Daniel dan Alif? 1, 2, 8 dan 9 Jun ini TV3 membawakan Arts and Lights Expressive Showcase di Museum Telekom Kuala Lumpur. Peminat bertuah boleh saksikan persembahan eksklusif mereka secara intimate tau. Macam mana? Layari je platform media sosial TV3. Selamat Hari TV3. #Inspirasi Generasi. Kami sentiasa bersamamu.
Thanks for staying with us. In Sarawak, the father of an 11-year-old boy who was seen in a viral video self-driving a car in Cebu recently was issued a summons by the police. District Police Chief Assistant Commissioner Zulkifli Suhaili said the action was taken in accordance with the Road Transport Act after police successfully located the boy at 6:50 p.m. on Wednesday. The underage driver and his father were both taken to the Cebu Traffic Police Department for an investigation. Authorities then discovered that the boy is autistic and has medical records at the Cebu Hospital Psychiatry Specialist Clinic. Earlier, police were alerted to the video, which was recorded by the public and widely shared on social media at about 3 p.m. on Wednesday. The 30-second video clip showed the boy driving a car alone on Jalan Kampung Nyabor. Following the incident, Zulkifli stressed the importance of ensuring the safety of other road users and reminded parents of their responsibility in supervising their children. Moving on, a child care center staff accused of causing physical harm to a 17-month-old toddler had the charge read out to her 3 times at the Kajang Sessions Court on Thursday. This occurred after the 24-year-old accused, Nur Ain Ismail, said she understood the charge but hesitated when the court interpreter asked her to enter a plea before Judge Mazuliana Abdul Rashid. Nur Ain, who was 8 months pregnant, looked lost as she stood in the dock, prompting her counsel, Davy Wan Guan Hui, to ask the court for a brief stand-down to enable him to explain the charge to her outside the courtroom. It was only on the 3rd time the charge was read out that Nur Ain said she understood and pleaded guilty to the offence under the Child Act, which carries a maximum fine of 50,000 ringgit or jail not more than 20 years or both. The woman was accused of deliberately exposing the child, aged 1 year and 5 months, who was under her care, in a way that could cause physical hurt. She committed the offence on May 28th at the Child Care Centre in Bandar Mahkota Cheras. The court set bail at 8,000 ringgit with 1 surety and fixed July 2nd for case mention. Separately, at the Magistrates Court, the owner of the Child Care Centre, 34-year-old Chan Pei Kwan, was fined 3,500 ringgit for operating the premises without a licence. Previously, it was reported that the baby's father had lodged a report claiming his daughter was physically abused by a caregiver at the Child Care Centre when she was being fed. The Pulau Pinang Customs Department foiled an attempt to smuggle in contraband alcohol worth 1 million ringgit, including unpaid duties, via Northport, Port Klang on May 17th. Its director, Ruslan Ramli, said on Thursday that a total of 52,800 cans of beer were seized in the 10:30 a.m. operation. Ruslan said that a team of customs enforcement officers managed to intercept a container with the smuggled beer after 2 weeks of intelligence gathering. He added that the shipment from an East Asian country had been declared as office furniture by the importing company involved to avoid detection. It is also believed that the smugglers used the name and address of a non-existent company to deceive the authorities. Ruslan also said that the illicit items were not intended for distribution among locals, but were targeted at foreign workers in the country based on the brands of the beer. The department is currently identifying the suspects involved, with no arrests made so far. The case is being investigated under the Customs Act and Excise Act. A kuih seller was charged in the Georgetown Magistrates Court on Thursday with intentionally causing the death of a cat last week. 47-year-old Faizul Azlan Rizwan pleaded not guilty after the charge was read to him before Magistrate Nadratun Naim Muhammad Saidi. Faizul was accused of causing the feline's death by placing it in a gunny sack before tossing it into a river along Jalan Kota Giam, Jelutong on May 31st. The offence under the Penal Code carries a punishment of imprisonment for up to 2 years or a fine or both if found guilty. The court set bail at 6,000 ringgit in one surety and fixed July 18th for case remention. Previously, a 66-second video had gone viral in which several individuals retrieved a gunny sack from a river and found the body of a cat in it. The Malaysian Animal Association stated that they had received information about similar incidents occurring at the same location. As we wrap up Nightline this time around, let's take a look as drones lit up the night sky over Portsmouth, England on the 80th anniversary of D-Day, where 80 years ago this week, Allied forces fought to liberate France by driving out the forces of Nazi Germany. With that, I'm Sabrina Zainal. Thank you for tuning in and take care.